Thank you for coming tonight and supporting us. Just to let you know, if it's okay, we're filming tonight. All of the talks will eventually end. It's too bright. End up on YouTube, and the fire escapes are here and at the back. Morag Myerscough is an internationally acclaimed artist and designer, known for creating installations and artworks that transform places and champion community and public interaction. When I recently asked my friend Christoph Egrave, who gave a talk here in July last year, if he knew Morag, he said, "Of course, I thought I was colourful till I met Morag." Born and bred in Hollywood. Born and bred in Holloway, London, Morag's mantra is, "Make happy those who are near, and those who are far will come." Morag.
Well, thank you for that introduction. Thank you for coming out tonight on this beautiful evening. It's been raining in London for days and days now, so I'm very jealous. So I have got too many images, and I'm going to probably talk too fast, and if we run out of time, I'll just skim through them, and we'll get somewhere anyway. So I like starting with my family, because my great-grandmother had my great-great-grandmother had my great-grandfather over there in the workhouse in Farringdon in London. And I think we don't really know because there's nothing written down, but she must have given him away to the circus so that he could survive. And she got out of the workhouse eventually, and eventually she got him to come back to London, and this is them when they're older. Him there and my great-grandmother there in London. So my great-grandfather went to the circus. He became a clown called Busby, and then my great-grandmother was German, and she was sort of an outsider. She ran away, and in those days people ran away to the circus. Didn't have anything for her to do, so she became a high diver, which I didn't really know what a high diver was until more recently, and that's like diving from a big scaffold tower, which maybe I like scaffolding, into a small pool of water. So quite brave. And then he travelled Europe with the circus, and then they ended up in a semi-permanent circus until probably, by the looks of the image, they were quite old, and Charlotte got them to come back to London. And then this is my French grandmother, who's actually second cousin to my grandfather, my great-grandfather. And she married their son, Clarence, and her father was a salon painter in Paris, and she came to Holloway. Holloway, the street looks nice now, but it was pretty grim and really dreadful, and I don't think she realised what she was in for. And so she lived a sort of fantasy life in the house where she made this terrace house very elegant, got all her family to send her things from France, and lived in a way that outside was whatever it was, but inside her house it was how she wanted it to be. And she was a hat designer for Hartnell's. She was very glamorous. And then this is my dad and my uncle, who became violinists. My dad was a viola player, my uncle was a violinist. And my mother in the middle. This is the very first time my mum came down to London. And when she told her friends up in Scotland that she was going to Holloway, they actually thought she was going to prison. And then literally my dad saw my mum, which I'll tell you in a minute, at the top of the stairs, and then this is 2 months later, and then 3 months later or something, they were married. So I had this very unusual family in the middle of Holloway, and you can see my grandmother's interior, and we lived next door. It was very close, very unlike a sort of London family. We lived next to each other, and my mum, me and my sister gave our dolls an epidemic, so we killed them off. We didn't like them, so my mum bought us a spaceship. And interesting, my sister has just gone. My sister and I used to travel, and then she'd always pretend she was a monster, and I'd always get scared. And now my sister's gone back to do art because she's been a family law solicitor all her career, and now she time travels all the time as her work. So those things, they say, isn't it, 7-year-olds? I think we were about 5 or 7 at that time when we got that. So my dad was a classical musician. I can't speak French and I can't play an instrument. My mum was a textile artist. I could do textiles. And when I was really little, I just really loved making all the time. And our house was like that. So that's me in the middle. And that's me not allowed to be in the room when my dad's practicing. So I used to think practicing was a thing you did on your own. And I always felt like making things were things you could do with other people, and I enjoyed that. So this piece on the left was in the Commonwealth Institute. I was part of the Young Embroiderers when I was 12. So you can see through the work that my colour taste hasn't changed. And that is because, you know, here is like multiples of coloured threads and stuff. And my mum introduced us from tiny to look at colour and play with colour and not be scared of colour. I then went to local schools in Holloway, and then I went to I got into St Martin's and then the Royal College. My dad never understood my dad went to the Royal Academy of Music, always thought anything to do with the Royal College was rubbish, never understood anything that I was doing, but that's fine. And so so when I was at St Martin's, I absolutely loved Memphis, you can imagine. And then when I was at the Royal College, I went to see the exhibition Hockney Paints the Stage, and it absolutely blew my mind. It was at the Hayward Gallery. And I just couldn't believe that it was, you know, the interior of the Hayward Gallery is all concrete. And then there were these amazing, magical installations that Hockney had made. And I just was like, wow, that was, how, you know, that just took me like the spaceship. And also when I was little, I used to go and see Father Christmas, and we went to, there was a department store near us, and that always transported us places. And I just love that escapism, even though, and the circuses like that. I like fun fairs, you know, it doesn't have to be permanent, but it takes you to another place. So my final work at the Royal College was, I really loved opera, so I did a piece where I reinterpreted the libretto of The Turn of the Screw by Benjamin Britten, and and I made all the sets. But the Royal College, really, I was doing graphic art and design, and they were a bit like, why the hell are you doing this? You're never going to get a job, Morag. So, you know, we've got to try and get you a job. So when I left college, I went and I did graphic design, which was what my course was, and I set up my own studio Myerscough. And it was very successful. I ran it on my own. And I worked this, you know, the Sterling Prize was just announced yesterday. This was a school. I worked with AHMM, and we got the Sterling Prize, I think, in 2014 for this school. And I worked with mainly AHMM about integrating wayfinding and colour into their buildings for several years. And then the last piece, I'd say this is the last piece of real design I did, was I designed the permanent exhibition at the Design Museum from 2011 till 2016, and it absolutely killed me, and I never wanted to design anything ever again. And that's a long story that I'm not going to go into. So at the same time, at 2011, so I left college in 88, so it's 2011 is quite a long time later. I was working on the Design Museum, but I was also given this space, and I was asked, I had made a train for this company, their cathedral, their developers, and I'd converted a train for them in 2008. And then they said to me, the Olympics are happening, Morag. We've got this space in Greenwich. We want you to put a cafe in there. There's a space. Just do what you want. And actually, it was what I'd been waiting for all this time. I wanted it, since I'd made those sets at the Royal College, I wanted to make a piece of work that wasn't controlled by all these external things. And then I just was petrified and I couldn't do it. And it was really weird. And then I went on site, and I'd had like a few weeks. And then the client said, the commissioner said to me, Morag, if you don't come up with it tonight, that's it. And I was like, oh fuck, you know. And what am I going to do? And then so I went home, and I've been working with Lem Cisse on, we both were doing tweets. I was doing coloured tweets. He was also writing a poem in this place, in this area for Greenwich, for the same people. And then I read that tweet, his tweet for that day, and it just absolutely, I don't know, it just said something to me. And I literally just made that model. And my partner Luke had gone to the pub or something. He came back, and I said, Luke, this is it. I've done it. So I sent it over to the guys in the morning, just the model like that. And then they just said, yeah, make it. I'd never made anything quite like this before. Built lots of exhibitions and stuff, but not this. And I just did. I said, okay, we're going to paint it. I mean, I think I had 2 people working with me at the moment, and I think 4 of us, we all painted it, and then we got the bit, and we made it in 2 weeks because the Olympics were the train station was just over there. And then this got some small project awards, at least it was runner-up or something at the AJ Small Project Awards, and then it got a lot of press. And that was the beginning. And the moment I did that, I knew this is the direction I wanted to go. So I'm just going to run through some other images of projects I've done over time. So I think I've done, since 2012, maybe quite a lot of projects, because I've done, like 30 installations or something around the world in various places. This is permanent currently, I mean semi-permanent, at Battersea Power Station. This is in Madrid. This was in Belgium. This was in Folkestone. This was in Chile, and London, Canary Wharf, Paris. But one of my biggest thing is, because I sort of showed you at the beginning about my family, because I never felt like I fitted in. Definitely didn't fit into graphic design. Definitely didn't fit in really with design, because I hadn't been trained as a product designer. Obviously, I'm not an architect, and my sister's a fine artist, so I didn't feel and that's a whole different world. She's a painter, and I didn't feel like that was my world either. So I just wanted to make my own space for myself, and that's what I did really throughout the whole, having my own studio and everything. And I wanted to find out what belonging, because my family was so insular and so particular, you know, not like the other families around us in Holloway, that, you know, I was too scared when I was at school to say that my grandmother was French, because it was weird. You weren't allowed to say. It was just strange things that aren't like that now. And so it was very closed. So I wanted to really find what belonging meant to me. And then I realized I don't have children. I chose not to have children. So it wasn't about that type of that sort of family unit. And then I found a space, which I'll show you a bit later, a building that, so I'd been searching a long time, till I was about 40. And then I found this space. As I was a middle child, so I never had my own space ever. And then I realized that actually it was about being around, being in a space, living how I wanted to live without people questioning anything. And then I found my own sense of belonging. And so then I wanted to find out how that works in communities, and can you make belonging as well? Can you, in new groups of people, can you form a new sense of belonging? So this project goes back to my mum and dad again. So I said they met suddenly. So my dad was on a ballet tour with the Royal Ballet, playing in the orchestra. My mum was teaching at Gray's School of Art, and my dad saw my mum at the top of the stairs in some boarding house or something in Aberdeen, and then that was it, love at first sight. So my mum died in the end of 2017, and in 2018 I was called from Aberdeen to see if I wanted to make a project to make people re-look at this Market Cross it used to be a really important part of Aberdeen, but all the shopping has moved the other way. So I was asked to look at how can we make this area more exciting again. And then I said to them, that was a newspaper thing saying my mum was getting married. I said to them, oh, you know, this is so weird because I've never been to Aberdeen and my mum's just died, and then suddenly, you know, you've asked me, no, I'm going to cry, no, I'm going to move on, to do this project. And so it's quite raw at the time, it still obviously is. And so I worked with Joe Gilbert, I wanted to work with a poet, and they gave me Joe Gilbert, who is a Doric poet, so it's a local language, and she was that I wasn't going to bring, when I do community projects, it's not about me. It's about finding out what anybody wants to speak about, you know, about their city or what they want to say. But then Joe just said, you know, Morag, we've got two narratives here. We've got your story and the people of Aberdeen's story. So we put this double narrative together, and it was really beautiful. So this is us, that's Joe with the blue hair over in the back, and we did all these pattern workshops, and we did and we had conversations, we did poetry as well, and then we made, because they had such a ridiculous little amount of money, and they showed me the money, and I was like going, well, I can't make it for that, but if you can make it for that, I'm in. So I just would go up, and then we got loads of students from Grace School of Art, and they got a team. 2 people ran the teams, and then people would come in and out, and they would paint it all. I would prepare everything like numbers. And then what I realised, which was really interesting about the whole project, was that I suppose my mum was, you can't really be very Scottish because you're Scottish, aren't you? But sometimes when people move from where they are, they're maybe even, you know, my mum lived in London for majority of her life once meeting my dad. So she, you know, she was very strong Scottish, and I sort of slightly rejected that. I thought I was a Londoner. But then when I was there, I realised that I was more Scottish than I thought I was, and the women, and I actually connected, and that sense of belonging more with Scottish women than maybe I do with London women. Anyway, this is the poem. These are the 2 poems. And if you read them in your head, you can probably understand them, because I just put my mum's Scottish accent on and I could read it. But this one, I was going to do all type all over the building. Look how long it was. I was like, oh my God, that is so long. How am I going to do that text? So in the end, I just decided, okay, I'm going to write the text as a performance, and then people would just come up and they'd talk to me, and it was just really, I'm not usually as brave as that, and I don't usually do my own handwriting, but I really enjoyed it, and it made it much more fulfilling for all of us, I think. And this was just us playing around the team. And then this is Joe, so we had performances. So the idea is you looked at the Myerscough Cross in a very different way, and also you got up on the top and you could look at the city as well, so it was doing many things. And then this woman, she was a midwife, and she was talking to me saying that she just wished that there was more free installations like this, because there was a lot of art in the city, but she felt scared to go inside, and she liked the idea that, you know, she could just come across it and be part of it. And I look a bit concerned in that picture, but she isn't telling me off. And then this is the piece, and totally hand painting. And people would come up, and you know, there were the young people, their mums and dads came and helped and painted, so people would say they painted that bit and this bit, which was really sweet. And then afterwards, because the reason I use scaffolding as well is so it goes back in the system, and then we made sure that all the ply was reused, so there were chicken houses made out of it, there were doors on studios, it was just redistributed throughout anybody who wanted it, which was sweet. So London born, London bred until I die, and then I'm dead. And my mum only knows this, that she thought I would never ever leave London. She'd always be annoyed by me that I was I would stay forever. And this was the place where I felt, I was in Hoxton, it was exactly where I wanted to be. My studio was downstairs and I lived upstairs. And then COVID came and I painted the whole, this was one of my neighbours taking a picture of me. I painted the whole of the building. I was obviously didn't have anything to do. So I painted, so this was room. I can't believe I never looked at that room, but I didn't even look at that room. So I did this room up and that's what it ended up looking at. And we just used things that we had in the house and old panels and repainted things. This was the living room, where again, the cupboards were inherited when I bought it in 2005, but then I painted it. So, you know, and this was my library. So I had my library in my studio and then I had to move it out because Luke wanted to have the space at the back. So then I tried to get loads of people to do this, make these shelves for me, and nobody would make them. So then just before lockdown, I said to Luke, we're ordering that wood. And so me and him made the whole of the library at the time, and it got loads of press. This is my old studio. And then it got loads of press, and I really liked it, but I've always wanted a garden, and I've always just had terraces, and I wanted to live more sustainably. So in 2021, I left London, and this is the studio empty. So now I live somewhere else, and I'll show you that in a second, outside, a little bit outside London, in Surrey. My mum will die. Well, my mum is dead, but my mum will be so sort of shocked that I've moved there. But it is really, it's a much more sustainable building. It's got solar panels. I can grow vegetables. And even if I don't live there for a long time, I wanted to experience that in my life. And I think it's really easy at certain times in your life not to change and just go, this is the last bit of whatever. And I just know we're going to have a change and do something different and see. So this project is Hadrian's Wall. I was asked to work on a project, 1900 years of Hadrian's Wall. And I worked for English Heritage, and it was only a year, they'd left a very short period of time, and I was asked to go and look at 3 sites. One was Housesteads, one was Birdswall, and one is, and I can't remember it. Anyway, the 3 main sites is another one. And I chose Housesteads because it's the most remote and it's got the most amount of Hadrian's Wall, because honestly there's not a lot of Hadrian's. I mean, it's a bit, you have to find it as you go along the route, and this one has got the most of it. And I stood at this space, which is where the old gatehouse was, and I looked out and I just thought, yeah, so this is it. I just had this moment that I wanted to make it. And then they were so happy about that because seemingly the guy from Game of Thrones also stood on that bit and thought it was the best bit. So I'm in good company, but I needed that backup. But these were the only plans that we were given to build on, as I felt that I wanted to build on the wall. It was very important to me that it was on the wall. And so I asked Arup engineers if they would help me, and they brought somebody down from Edinburgh, but actually they said they couldn't help me. So they said, you need to go to a scaffolding company, which is what I do anyway. So then it was like, okay, I'm just going to do that. So I then started going to the scaffolding company. But you should never be, all these 3D visualizations, you don't have to do. You just have to do that, and you can get it through, at least the first stage. So I did this drawing, and I sent it through, and they said, yeah, okay, let's go to the next stage. And because I hate visualization, I think when you do drawings, my sister teaches at a drawing school. She's amazing at drawing, and my drawing has always been quite basic. But I think that I've come to terms with that, because I know if I do a drawing and at the end of it I'm happy with it, it's expressed what I'm trying to get across. And when you see the finished thing, you'll see that this is almost exactly the same as the final piece. So it sounds easy. It went from this to actually making it. No, it didn't. We had everybody against us. We had National Trust. We had UNESCO. We had everybody. Nobody wanted me to build on the wall. I had some amazing people in English Heritage who just wanted to get this through, and they supported me, and that is the biggest thing for doing these projects. You can't do them on your own. You need lots of support, and they were just brilliant, and they were there with me. They wanted, in fact, there was a point where I said, are you sure we should carry on? And they were like, no, we've got to get it done. And we did. And also because we had a very small window, we had to get it in July, because the summer holidays when all the kids were there, if we missed July, then that was it. We might as well forget it. So we went, they got Heritage Lottery money to do workshops. And so we did lots of workshops with lots of, Chester's, that's it, where the museum is. That was the third place. And we did lots of workshops with lots of groups from around the area. And the whole idea was, I didn't want to make this piece of work that just said, oh, look, isn't it great? There's Hadrian's Wall. I wanted to work through with all these groups, what did the wall mean to them? What do walls mean? You know, the reason it was a gate way was a place where you could pass through, so that came up with lots of different conversations. So it wasn't about celebration at all. It was about thinking about the impact of wars on now, on history, and I worked with the curators as well. They gave, each time we did a workshop, they would do a historical background to the groups. And then it was the first time the English Heritage had taken on a painting group with communities. So we did about 120 boards with the community then in my house, because at the moment I haven't got a studio inside there. This is my new house that's got some trees. So this was painting. We just painted all the rest in about 2 weeks with a team of people. I always pay people to help me. And then this was it all laying out at the top of Housesteads. Oops. And the picture on the end there, I think I am doing that. I'm writing. So the very important thing for me is absolutely everybody's name is written onto the artwork, and that everybody involved is given a credit, and I would normally do that. So this is the piece. And this is the inside. I'm a bit, I have a bit of fetish about scaffolding, but I think I've taken it to its limit here. And it's so nice because inside there's no colour, so when you're looking out, you are just seeing the view. And this is the actual thing built. And the whole idea is the height of the window on the left is the height of the wall would have been. So this is the first view in 1600 years that you have been able to have the same view as guards from Roman times. So this is, and we didn't manage to make it fully accessible because quite honestly, Housesteads isn't fully accessible, but we did ramp up so that people could get inside to experience the interior of the space. So I won't go through the whole of this, but you can get an idea. But this piece was really beautiful. This one here, so there was a girl in the workshop and she could only paint with her mouth and only communicate with her tongue. And I wanted to make sure that her piece was on there, so we gave her a board and she put it on. And then, because we also included all the volunteers working on this project, when people came round, they told lots of stories about the making of the project as well. So they were invested in it. And then it was on Country File, which was good for us because lots of people came. But there were lots of haters because they said that I was like the most horrible, terrible person that had ever walked the earth because I put something on Hadrian's Wall. But actually, this gatehouse would have probably been painted white with some painting on it. So because obviously the Roman God, they wanted it to be seen from a really, really long way away. So it wasn't stone like that, it was painted. And there is evidence of that. And this is me, so you can see how small I am. So I'm not really scared when I do this, I'm not really scared of size. And then all those boards were given to the community, people chose them, and then I got some of the ones painted back, and then I did this project in Bristol where I reused the boards. So there's always a story. This one I'm going to go through quickly, but I just really love. So this is another sketch, and it was a community. It's called, it's in Weston-super-Mare, and there's a really strong arts community there, and they wanted me to make this shrine. And it's just, I mean, it was such a beautiful community and how everybody brought together, and they again made it themselves with me coming in doing a bit of painting, but students, we painted them in a shop. They made cakes. They never told me of all my work, which was so. I had this day with a dog show. That's me. So I'm so excited about my work on the cakes. It didn't matter what else I'd done. That was the best thing ever. And it was just really a beautiful moment. Everybody coming together, and then you think, oh, this is so exciting to have been part of this, and that's the piece. Compton Verney is a house that has a guy's art collection in it, and he's got the biggest folk art collection. And I was asked to do a piece outside here. And originally I was trying to do a floating piece, but oh my God, logistically it was just impossible. So in the end, I decided we'd do a village on where there had been a medieval village. And this was very much about being a community workshop. So I did these workshops outside where all the kids drew houses, and I also went into schools and they drew their houses that they'd like to make and what they wanted to do. I mean, this was so brilliant, this little one here. And she's tiny, she's teeny weeny. And then I made this structure that you could go around. It actually in the end was up there for longer. This was a hard painting project because I don't think they were quite prepared to paint as much as they did. But they got it all done, which was great. And then this is the final piece. And it was just a joy. Kids did climb up here, which wasn't the intention, which did scare me, but it was their parents letting them do it. So, and it just really was everybody just really loved playing on it, and always said to me how much they liked this space. And it's there, so a couple of the buildings, like the one on the end, is mine, but the others are all taken from the kids' drawings. This one is in Coventry. So it was Coventry had, I think it's 2021, the year of, city of, I don't know, the city of the year or something, whatever. And they asked me to do loads of projects in Coventry. In the end, I got a shopping area. But I went to see the Basil Spence building, and I had these colours on. And then people were stopping me in the street saying how they loved my colours. And then I had looked at lots of other areas, but then I was given this place. And I was like, thanks for that, with the Poundland. And, because it's really hard to make something to fight with the Poundland and the complete entertainment and the kiosk in the middle. But I did it, and it was a slow process. So I first painted it pink, and it was on really terrible things on Instagram, going, oh my God, what is she doing? This place is horrible. It looks like cough mixture or something, or that thing. But this is the final piece, and it's just hand painted, and all I did was put colours on the roof, and how it transformed that space. And from a place that nobody would walk through, they would avoid it, they'd go the other way. They now walk through it. The cafe's doing a lot better. It's really transformed. And I would never have known that amount of colour would pool onto the floor as well. So it was, and it isn't, it wasn't hugely expensive to do that, making home. So I've worked in hospitals quite a lot, Royal London and Sheffield Children's Hospital and and I've done some GP things and everything, but nobody's ever let me in the bedrooms because they're too scared. It's like she's not going in those bedrooms. And then in Sheffield Children's Hospital, they're making a new wing, and they let me go into the bedroom. I won the commission. So I did some proposals, and I had like a big presentation to like 20 clinical staff, and then I showed them things, different levels of sort of extremeness. And then afterwards, they said to the person who commissioned me that they liked me, but there's no way she's doing those bedrooms. And so I said, no, okay, let's relook at this. So I made these little models. I said, let's not give up on this. I'll make these models, you take them up, show them to everybody, and then see what the response is. Because I think it's very unfair to expect people in a two-dimensional, you know, if you're clinical staff and then you're looking at something two-dimensional, you've got to transfer that into a kid's bedroom, that you're trying to protect these kids, and then she's coming doing these crazy colours that are going to give them headaches. So then I did these, and then you can see 92% of people said yes. So when it went to the board, they said, oh, we can't say no to this. The only thing, which is, I did actually do a blue one there. They said out of 48 bedrooms, they want 6 of them to be blue. And then these are the bedrooms. I didn't put the teddy on the photo shoot, but it's quite sweet, because you obviously can't take pictures of children. So these are, and I had to use laminate, but I wanted to make it look like wood to soften it. And then they got these curtains done as well. And then from there, I did a project for Method products, and I asked them if they would sponsor the garden in the courtyard for Sheffield Children's Hospital. And it took a long time because then COVID hit, but then we finally did it. So this, the architects did this. I wasn't involved in these colours, but this was the space, and this is what I proposed. And I painted this all in my house at home on my own because there was no budget. So I didn't take any money. I just used the money that we were given. And they were very good. I think they gave us 70,000. And I didn't take anything. So I painted it. I couldn't get anybody in. I had done this project for these crossings in London, and then they were stopped because, anyway, I'm not going to go into that. But so I saved them and asked if I could have them for here, and they gave them to me. So then this is the space now with this pavilion, so they can do little classes in there, you know, with people. And it was the whole thing about bringing people, young people out into the fresh air, into this space. But during COVID, the pigeons had decided they liked, not in here, but they had liked inhabiting this courtyard. So then we had to put these pigeon nets up. But hopefully it's okay. So this is the space, and then this was a space at the back for doctors to have a break because it was a sort of used. Okay, I'm going to run over time. Am I okay? I think I started at 10 past or something, yeah. So this is an interior. I worked with AHMM for a long, long time, but then I wanted to not really work with them for a little while, and then I think they didn't want to work with me either. It wasn't like, it was amicable, you know, you just drift apart after a while. And then this project came up at the Broadgate, which is ironic. I saw Broadgate being built, and now it's all being stripped back, but this is one of the original buildings that was being refurbed by Orford Hall, Monham Morris. And they had this entrance, this middle foyer area, and they asked me if I would make the cafe in this area. And I'd always wanted, this is a permanent piece, and I wanted to use tiling. So because it was 1 Finsbury Avenue, and this is the back of my family house, terraced house. And I live in that near Finsbury Park and stuff, even though they're different. It felt like I wanted to bring that domestic, because 1 Finsbury Avenue, it originally had houses on it. So I wanted to bring that domestic feel back into the building, and also take it high, so when you looked through, you had different views. So this was the structure that was built. And then, and yeah, it's all tiled with the plant. I spent 6 months working out what plants would grow without natural light. There's a lot, actually. and because we spend a long time with UV, should we use this? And we didn't need it, they're fine. And so you can see these were screen printed tiles, were all cut, it's all cut to shape. And then that's my niece helping me. And then we made all the furniture in my studio. So we had a team of people. My partner Luke, he made the furniture with some other people, and I painted them with different people. And this is the seating area with the furniture. So I've told you about my love of scaffolding, and I've been really for a long time trying to use bamboo, but one project I tried in Austria, it was going to be £1 million and I had 50,000 euros, so that wasn't going to work. So I waited for an opportunity, and then during lockdown I got a project and I asked a fabricator, and it was amazing. They said they would get me bamboo. So these were just my thoughts each day, different days. And then I started writing these boards out and then made this bamboo piece in Grosvenor Square, which was a dream for me because I did really want to start using bamboo, and then this bamboo was reused for other things as well, and I got the panels back. And then last year for the Forest of Imagination in Bath, I built another piece, and I got this amazing guy. He was just chance that he was over from Guatemala, and he specialised in bamboo, and so then he added all this lattice work and stuff into the piece, which was just amazing. And this is it growing after. It was there for about 5 weeks. So I'm obsessed. So this is now, I can grow my vegetables now, and I did have bad tomato blight, but it did put me off tomatoes. And I worked with, this was Glasgow, I think it's COP26 or something, where I worked on a big project called Clean Power. These are all made from ocean plastics and about renewables. You know, I've driven an electric car. So this was my Mini, and I'm going to tell you because it's Mini, but I had this G-Whiz for like 20 years, and I waited years and years for a new car, electric car, to come out. So I really believe in renewable energy, and so then this project came up with Mini, who were making a new electric car, and I couldn't really resist it. So because I'd had this thing in my head that I wanted to do these buildings made of flowers. And so I did this sketch. I'd been on a Zoom, and after talking with them, I just had this idea of city and country and did this drawing. Because this is where this is a view I used to have for many, well, the majority of my life, adult life anyway. And then this is the view I have now. So the trees have replaced the buildings. So I collect photographs of my plants that bloom. And then I've been making a colour palette up from the plants in my garden, and I want to do a piece. I did a piece a long time ago about my mood colours, and I want to do a piece with all these colours. But this was an interior piece, and Mini were amazing. They never stopped me. They never said that. They never told me anything. I did exactly what I want. It was amazing, and I got paid. That is a good one. And this was the entrance to Hoxton, to the piece. And there was all seating outside. So it was it was at the London Design Festival, and it was to promote their car. And this was the space inside. So I made this new city because, you know, it's about I had bird song throughout because it was, you know, it's about the sound as well, the smells change, you know, everything changes when you get rid of fossil fuels. So it was about giving this new city that you could achieve if you got rid of lots of existing stuff. And I'm not going to play that because I'm going to run out. So we're on the last bit now. The most important thing is, I think it's maybe because I haven't had children that I don't no, I haven't really stopped playing. I've just never been really very serious. I suppose I've been very selfish and just really thought about myself, my dog, and sometimes about Luke. No. You know, I do think sometimes, which is sort of what happened to me with the Design Museum, you get bogged down with projects. You think there's a certain point in your career where you feel you want to do really big projects, or you're moving, and the bigger project, the better project or something. But then that comes with lots of things that I really didn't like. And I know that, you know, I'm much better if I will be completely committed if I'm not made to think what I'm thinking is wrong, and with no justification sometimes when you're working on big projects. So I think, you know, for me now, I will only do a project if I enjoy it, and because sometimes they're short and sometimes they're long, but if you can't commit yourself 110% to that project, you shouldn't do it. So I always make sure that I, you know, even when we're really busy, that we'll just play. And the other thing is you know, I build all the stuff in SketchUp, but actually my best pieces are when I'm traveling or something, and I just draw these fantasy structure things, I don't even know what they are, and then I return to them. When I've got a project, I'll return to them, and then I'll think about how that would fit into a project that I'm doing. So this one was at Coachella. It's the biggest festival in the world. Well, it used to be. So there's Burning Man and there's Coachella. It's in near Palm Springs in Indio, and it's like Glastonbury, but it's the American version. And if you get this installation to do, it's like really big thing. And I didn't even know that you could try and send things in. I tend not. So they contacted me when I was actually doing Hadrian's Wall, and they said, would you submit some ideas to build a structure? And so I did. But originally my structure was enclosed, and they wanted me to separate it out a bit more because of the nature of the way people use it there. And they don't really like people hiding in places. They wanted it a bit more open. So the drawing previously, I took elements of it, and I really wanted to do it to be a wind mobile thing, but because it's in the desert and it's too windy, they said I can have moving, but I can't have wind. And then it was amazing. They made this model over in Indio and of the structure, and they absolutely kept true. We just did everything I never went out there until the final thing. We did everything by Zoom, and although we had been working on it for quite a long time, but there was still a man sewing like 3 days before, because I originally, because I do most things in ply, they really didn't want me to use ply, and they encouraged me to use fabric, which I wasn't sure about. But it was perfect because it felt much more like a tent. So originally they were wrapping it, but then they did it with Velcro. So this is, you can see how the scale of this, like that's him. So it's huge. It's huge. It was huge. And this is it. This is the final piece. And it all moved. And it was just a joy to be there, and people coming up to talk to me, and how much it made them happy. And I often, with my work, I will go and people were just all doing, I made this a catwalk, so they were all going around and, taking pictures of themselves and doing everything. And I just absolutely loved it. And I think that's great. And this is more at dusk. And then I've never felt sad leaving an installation. They're finding ways of reusing it, as sad as this, because I thought, well, I might never come to Coachella again. I might never do this. And then Doja Cat was playing this song. And when I walked away, and I just thought it was so sort of poignant and really beautiful. And it's just wonderful to make that piece from day to night as well, and also having the bands, because I was right next to, near the stage, so I had all the bands.
Said what I said, I'd rather be famous instead. I let all that get to my head.
I take pictures of my suitcases. And this is the last one. I worked on a project in Paris for the, in La Courneuve. I worked with the local communities. It's a very migrant area, La Courneuve, and we did this piece for the Olympics, dotted along the road because there were some stadiums there, and it's all the young people's, well, the families' words. And then this one was in NDSM. I don't know whether you've ever been there, but it's in Amsterdam. It is an amazing place on the, where the docks, all artists took it over for like 25 years, and now it's getting more built up, but it's still, they've got such an amazing ethos. But there's a lot of people there, new people, and a lot of older people, not necessarily old, but people who've been there for a while. They don't like what's happening. So we had these incredible workshops where everybody expressed what they felt about the changes. And then I made this piece with swings and with their some in Dutch, some in English, you know, where people were able to voice what they said. And then we had a poet who made a big spoken word piece, and he recited it as well with everybody, extended with everybody's sort of thoughts. And this did move with the wind. This was wind. So you can see but the swings were condemned because they suddenly classed it as a playground rather than an art piece, and so even though we only made the swings move slightly like that, we had to stop them or we had to take it down. So we just stopped them because we didn't want to have that controversy. And this is a piece, so going full circle, I did stop doing embroidery and textiles. It didn't seem to fit in where I was, but I picked it up again. I went to Doncaster Minster. I was asked to do a piece there. And I was struggling with it really because I'm not religious, and I was a bit like, how can I put something in a religious, you know, in a minster when I don't feel that way? But then I really was taken by the kneelers that had been made by the community. So and my mum being a textile artist, and there was a female textile artist who was the same age as my mum as part of Doncaster Minster. And so I went away and I just wanted to do embroidery all summer, which is what I did. And then I started doing this piece, and then I wasn't sure what I was doing. I just did it, and then I thought, well, this is taking me a really long time, and I don't even know why I'm doing it. And then afterwards, so later, I turned it the other way up, and I thought, oh yeah, okay, I'm going to make it into this structure. So this is now 11-meter structure made with some embroidery at the bottom and ply and then there's lots of cutouts in it so the light comes through. And then I also spent the summer doing this, which really took a long time, and it's only this big. But it was just really good for me. It was really good to take myself to a different place and to be slow and do something different and make your mind think differently. And then I'm just going to end up on my little dog. So little Elvis, partly why I moved was because I've had 3 Westies, and they've always been waiting for me when I'm either sleeping or working. When I lived in London, I used to sleep and work and then take him for a wee. And so now, look at him. He's got he goes everywhere. He shouts at the parakeets at the top, you know, and he's just he has a whale of a time. It's brilliant. So I feel like I've achieved something in life. Thank you.
Some questions?
Yeah.
Morag's happy to answer some questions.
Thanks. Can I ask you whether you've assessed the impact in places where you've worked? Has there been an enduring impact of exciting a local community that they continue your work in some way?
Yeah, I didn't show the bandstand. I did a bandstand in Brighton that moved around when the Brighton Festival, and we went into this housing estate, and I was sitting there because I do go and try and see how it impacts, and people had come from all their houses and then were sitting down, and this woman was saying to me, "Oh, it would be so brilliant if we could keep this forever here." And I said to her, "But that's not, you don't want to keep it. You want to have the memory of that and something coming back, because they'd never want to maintain it. It wasn't," but she just loved this moment that she hadn't felt for a really long time. And that stayed with me a lot about how, because a lot of community things are inside community buildings, and some people are scared to go inside those buildings. And so when you put things outside, people do have a very different reaction to them. So I haven't evaluated everything, but I know met somebody who was part of evaluating the Hadrian's Wall. And seemingly that did have a really big impact actually on community, on the people who were involved and also the visitors. And it did start giving a different view of English heritage. That's the thing about being temporary. When people are like, "Oh my God, you've destroyed," well, it's going. Get over it. You're just giving a different perspective on something that hasn't changed for 16. It's just been those pile of stones for that time. So you're giving another viewpoint to maybe find other ways for people who wouldn't normally go there to to get into understanding things on a different way. And I hope that sort of answers.
Hi Rob, that was absolutely fantastic. So thank you from all of us. It was just brilliant. Building on what Stuart said, I was very aware that the joy, and I'm a big fan of temporary, the impact of temporary and the importance of enabling more permanent change. But I'm guessing all of your work is temporary, or have you been tempted to create more permanent pieces as well?
All the community work, there are some, Broadgate is permanent. I'm working on a big bus station in Leeds that's permanent. That isn't a community project. But the majority of the community projects are temporary. But that's also the nature of the money that people have. There's usually only budgets to do something that is, to build a permanent piece is a whole different money-wise. And I work with arts groups I did a big project with Left Coast in Blackpool last year. They have small pockets of money to do things, and sometimes permanence isn't needed. It just starts the mindset of people, empowering people to be part of these things that are bigger than just doing something round a table. They're seeing these things that they've done. They've made this big structure, been part of it. And that's the thing that I've found that is the biggest, most enduring thing, that's how people feel. They feel empowered and there's more possibilities for them.
So, I know this evening is about talking about colour, but I just wanted to ask you about your use of typography. Both words, where do you get the inspirations from in terms of the words you're choosing, but also the kind of the typefaces you're using to express the words and the colours and the meanings. If you can talk a little bit about what the inspirations for all that comes.
So my background is graphics. I was a very good typographer. And there was a point in my life when I was very young that I said I'd only ever use Franklin Gothic, and now it's manifested that I don't actually use Franklin Gothic. I mainly use Prismatic. It's a different font, but I like slab serifs. For me, they have the strength of what I want the words to say. I'm sorry if I didn't explain that, but in the community workshops, I work with the community. Those words are their words. Some of them are my words on the odd, some projects, but the majority of them is the words from the community, and I am very true to their words, and if, the one in Amsterdam, it had some negative things on it. It isn't always just about happy dappy, but and the one I'm doing in York Minster in the end, Doncaster Minster, the piece is called Love and Unity, and then we've got all these words from the community about how they feel about their community, their surroundings, and then we're going to make a community embroidery all together with their words as well, so they can see themselves in it. So yeah, with typography it's part of my it's like part of my stuff.
I was just wondering about the kind of contrast between the exteriors and the interiors, because you've got these kind of amazing, impactful exteriors, these kind of facades, and then you take people kind of backstage almost and reveal what they're made of and kind of break the illusion. I just wondered how important that is to you.
Yeah, that's interesting. I was very inspired when I was younger by walking through a stage set. So you had the rawness of the back of the stage, and you go through. In a way, I do it the opposite way around. So my buildings are like peacocks that you can see for a really long. So the Temple of Agape at the beginning that was on the south bank, that was like this big peacock that was saying, come over. And then inside I kept it just the light coming through and just the natural woods, and I think I had a bit of black and white just to stop people graffitiing, really. But, so yeah, I do play around with backstage, internal, external, because people always have comments, and they go, why haven't you done the inside as colourful as the outside? But for me, there's other things happening on the inside. Some have done some colourful insides, but it's that stage set thing.
My question was about the community projects and how you initially get them to be engaged at the beginning. What have you found is the best method to gain their confidence that they're not just attending a workshop and it's not great?
Yeah, so interestingly, when I was working on Hadrian's Wall, because it was the money for the workshops came from the Heritage Lottery Fund, I was then given somebody to oversee me, and she did not like me. She wanted me to evaluate everything all the time. She wanted me to give her a list of what I was going to get at the end of these workshops, and all these things. And I said, I don't do it that way. I mean, I used to teach a long time ago at St. Martin's, and I never did that. I've never done it. Because if you've done community workshops, you don't know what the group of people, how they're going to respond to each other, it's not like if you do a workshop in a school, depending on the age group of the kids, you sort of get a sense of what you're going to get, But when you do community workshops, you don't know. So it was really brilliant because I was working with this young poet as well the reason I'm not saying names, because I don't have a very good memory of names, but I'd like to say everybody's names, but I can't remember them all. But I would say to her, look, we'll go in and we'll see, we have to read the room and we have to work out how we navigate that in the split second that we're in the room. So you can tell, there were some homeschoolers and they were really suspicious of me, and that was quite hard. I found that one more difficult. But then I had a group of people who had Parkinson's, and I looked up how Parkinson's affects you, you know, and so then I thought, okay, well, it doesn't, you know, it's not affecting how they think, and so we can just carry on talking as we would anyway. And but these group of people, they wanted to just talk about their Parkinson's, and so you then had to try and give them their space to talk about their Parkinson's, and then move them back into, you know, so each one is different, and you do have to gain their trust, and it's not school, you know, and sometimes you can get, like in Amsterdam, it was amazing. I mean, those people, they were cutting things up, and they were doing, you know, and then they were reciting what they'd said, and, you know, and it was amazing, you know, and they'd written whole poems and stuff like that. And then sometimes you'll get like 3 or 4 words from people, you know, so it's about responding and gaining trust, and also just be personable with people and ask. The most important thing I got a lesson from Lem Sisse, because we were working on a hospital project and we were trying to do this workshop, and this guy just wanted to talk about the lack of parking in the hospital, and then he became the dominant. You couldn't shut him up, you know, he just wanted to talk about this. And so you can't, you know, it's not right for us to tell people to stop saying things, because obviously he had a problem. But Lem just started asking people their names and asked about them, something about them, and then suddenly the whole room changed, and they all started coming into the conversation, and they wanted to tell about themselves. What did their surname mean? What did their first name mean? Very simple things, but suddenly the ice was broken, and then we could move on, and it was really great. And so all those devices, you know, depend that you just use different ones. That was a long answer, sorry.
Thank you. It's a marvellous talk. One of my favourite books in my office is a book on the history of fairground attractions and services in the British Isles through the ages. And it's an extraordinary pictorial history of these amazing structures, often hugely colourful and with graphics as well, that used to regularly invade our towns and cities from pre-Victorian times through Victorian times, and generally sort of dying out between the walls. But the most amazing temporary structures that used to arrive on the county greens or whatever, and then disappear after a while. To what extent do you see a continuity between that history and what you're trying to do?
Yeah, I mean, from living in Holloway that was grey, basically grey. I mean, Highbury Fields was a bit nicer. They had some grass, and we used to go in the holidays to lie in Hampstead Heath because it was free. But they were, you know, that is my inspiration, those places arriving, those nomadic places, and those memories of those places, because they did just disappear again. But they were part of, you know, going on waltz. They were part of my teenage life that made me excited, and I do. I want to make that same sense of excitement when people see my work that did for me as a child. That sort of surprise that this shiny thing with all these colours turned up and then it disappeared, you know. I also see that now with flowers, so I'm obsessed with looking, you know, and I sometimes think my work is like, you know, just suddenly appears and then it disappears and it leaves everything exactly as it was. And that was what was nice about Hadrian's Wall, you know. There's no way I could leave anything, you know, no scratch, no nothing. And I love that disappearance. So, yeah, I think fairgrounds are magical, and I've always done that.
I've just got a really quick question. It's pretty nerdy, but is that the actual font, or have you made decisions in not do the insidey bits of the letters. I don't know what that's called.
I don't do the insidey bits. Yes. Yeah, I've chosen. Some people get annoyed with me about that, but it's easier to paint. Thank you.
Yeah, so just a massive thanks to you, Morag. I'm certainly feeling a lot happier after that. It's terrific. Thank you, everybody, for coming along and supporting us. I think we're on our last day tomorrow. It feels like it's been a long 2 weeks, but it's been brilliant. And thank you so much, everybody. Thank you.